So in this most recent update, we've had Hector added to the commanders that are available to be awakened alongside Arslan and Peter, and Hector comes in a slightly unique position in that epic general tokens do not work on him, neither elite general tokens. He's only able to be awakened through his tokens directly, which you can currently at the moment only source through his own medals. However, I would assume, or at least hope, that they will add his own tokens through the Werewood Memories shop, or maybe some other Black Diamond purchase at some other point in time, because sourcing this entirely through Hector medals is basically impossible. You'd have to buy his commander packs directly just over and over again and keep buying the 1000 Black Diamond one, which no one is going to do. He isn't good enough to justify doing that. So that's one to keep an eye on if they add additional ways of getting these Hector tokens, because this does make him a lot more awkward to awaken, because the epic general tokens, whilst expensive, you can just source them through the VIP shop. Even though it's like 28k diamonds a day, you can continuously buy them up and gradually awaken commanders through that in time. In terms of his stats, he has a max, so 3-star max book investment, at 90% spear attack, 92% spear defense, and at 4 books, he actually has 50% cavalry health reduction, which over triples what he has at base, which is kind of crazy. I would not have expected it to be that high. I mean, compared to Drake, which is fairly similar to him, I would still rather have the health, honestly, over 90% spear health. It's just more guaranteed value, because if you run into an imp for a spear front, this is obviously getting no value at all. But if you know they're running a cav front, this will get very nice value. 50% is a big number to attach with that, especially when you have the over 90% spear attack to go alongside it. But in terms of raw stats, I do think he's just a tiny bit below Drake, and he's like an all-in spear commander, so that puts him in a slightly awkward position as it is, because he's already fighting against the likes of Annie, who has spear health, which if you're going for a spear formation is insanely good for. Layla with her 4-star is ridiculous. Julian, always guaranteed value. Salma, who's also been recently released, her at max, over 90% spear attack, the ridiculous 4-star with synergy with those other aforementioned commanders. So I think he's fighting a bit of an uphill battle, honestly, but it's his 4-star where he gets the into these top formations, because he has the weakness attack synergy alongside Jamie's 4-star. So this is very, very premium content and won't apply to that many players in the game, but for those it does apply to, we'll go over his 4-star. So after the first time army active skill damage is taken by each allied lineups at the front, all immediately heal 15% of the troops lost due to the damage taken. At the same time, the lineup's attack increases by 15%. So I'm assuming the lineup's attack increase is additive and not multiplying it. So if you have, say, 300% spear attack, I'm assuming it would just go to 315% rather than 345%, which would be a 15% increase on the 300%. But the healing effect, we could probably do some maths on how much this would actually heal. My saved reports are maybe a bit extreme for examples, because they're mostly rallies. I guess this one was a solo, but it is basically rally deaths. I'll just use it as an example anyway. So if we go to the commander damage bit, so about 20k, 60k, about 10k, 10k. So depending on counter damage, it's maybe like 20, 25k on average troops being killed here. And this is the most extreme case of defeateds that it will really be affecting. So 15% of about 25k on average, that'll be 3.75k each times 5. We'll go up to about 18, 19k healed. So that is a fairly decent amount, honestly. That will reduce your total defeated quite a lot and will help your numbers advantage in the fight itself. But again, that is a very extreme case, I guess. So we'll say maybe 5 to 20k healing in a fight where you get hit kind of hard at least. If you're winning the fight, it obviously won't heal much at all, and most of the value will come from the attack increase and any potential weakness attack synergy with Jamie, rather than the heal itself. He does have leadership in the tavern, which is maybe the most sought after thing at the moment. A lot of people are sort of low on combat rate, just because it's kind of impossible for mid-spenders to be keeping up with narrowing that 2k gap with max accounts. Max accounts are currently at 10.5k combat rate, and I'm at about 7. He's already 3,500 above me, so me going up 500 combat rate is still pointless for me. So leadership will just give me more value there, so I am one of those who is prioritizing leadership over combat rate at the moment. So leadership in the tavern is the ideal, for me at least, and I think for a lot of other people at the moment. So that's good. But in terms of, is he worth it? I think it's really going to depend on how his tokens get handed out, because he could be very easy to awaken if those tokens are buyable fairly easily in the Well of Memories store. But if they're entirely only sourceable through this, he's going to be impossible to awaken easily. And I just don't think he's really worth it. I just really don't think he's that worth it. I think Hector's ideal right now is proccing Peter as soon as possible, with getting that 8 weakness attacks before 20 seconds ideally, because he will proc it at say like 13 seconds on 5 commanders at least of the 8 guaranteed, and then something like Enzo Latz or Drake will then proc it guaranteed before the 20 seconds, and that will get you 3 rotations of actives. But that's Peter Baelish, so for mid-spenders it's just irrelevant. There's so few people this is going to actually apply to, and they're probably not watching this video at all, so is it really even mentioning? For the general player, I think he's only really going to be that good unless he's very easy to awaken through the Well of Memories store, or you have a very spear-centric Jamie weakness attack setup with Jamie at 4-star, and you're really all in it with, say, Hector, Jamie, maybe Arslan, and then, I don't know, Layla, Annie, or Drake, Annie, something like that maybe. So I think a lot of this is just going to come down to how we get his awakening tokens. Because on a tier list, say, I think he'd go around the middle. I don't think he'd be a high priority at all. In terms of pure buffing spears, Drake is better. I'd argue even like Annie and Jamie are better themselves as well, especially if you're running something else on the back line and it isn't just mono spear. And I think in terms of pure investment, Annie, Layla, Julian are all safer investments in him. Salma too, honestly. But a lot of that is very all in on the commander damage setup. And they're really pushing this weakness attack synergy, and I'm sure they're going to add even more, and Hector does have a part to play in that. My worry with it is this weakness attack setup is really pushing you into spear front, and I think that might make you a bit easy to counter, because Jamie has spear tankiness, Hector has all spear stats, so if you don't run spears at least even on the back line, he gets no value at all pretty much. Arslan as another, the only free-to-play option in the entire game that procs it, all spear stats. That will probably make you want to get Drake as your one of these 90% commanders that procs Jamie too. Again, it's spear. You could, I guess, run like Imp Spear maybe with Lats, but you're losing stats there from Jamie with his spear health and his spear defense, and Hector, Arslan, you're just not really getting the value out of their stats. So I think this weakness attack really does need a bit more formational flexibility, honestly. Because if you know someone's in spear front, you can just load up hard with like Layla, Annie, and then Arya, Lats, something like that, and just have the Layla proccing off Lats and Arya, full buff your imp attack to the moon, run your imp from the front, and you'll smash through that person realistically if they don't have the more flexible stats. So I think because of that, if you are running this comp, you probably want to buff your cav attack kind of high, just so you can shred imps, but they can then run spear imp in really high levels of PvP. There's always going to be a counterplay to that, obviously. That's probably how I do it, is build up a spear cav setup with spear on the front and just go all in on the weakness attack. I'm so invested personally on the commander damage setup that there's just no way I can swap to weakness attack no matter what, just because I don't have the money to do it, because getting all these other epic commanders up to 3-4 star is just too much. And I think a lot of other people are in the same boat, so this is very high buy-in. And there has been a report going around with Dudu rallying around Mia and smashing her in a rally, with Dudu having 4-star Baelish and Mia not having it, with Dudu running the weakness attack setup into the commander damage setup from Mia with like 4-star Salma. But I'm not entirely sure if that's the weakness attack setup per se versus Peter Baelish's 4-star being ridiculous. And Peter Baelish's 4-star is basically irrelevant to me and everyone in my alliance, so I just don't care. So yeah, that became quite the ramble of just me spewing out nonsense, but there we go. We'll have to keep our eyes on where we can get these tokens for Hector. Yeah, I think overall Hector's just a very... let's wait and see. I don't think we have a choice either way because of how his tokens are currently sourceable. But in terms of slotting into our formations, he's definitely a wait and see. I'm not entirely sold just yet, but I wasn't on Jamie either, and he's proven to be a lot better than I expected. My main worry is just that formational telegraphing of him, because if someone's really built their account up to be strong with the weakness attack setup, you can almost guarantee they want to run spear front, which is just a bit of a awkward position to be in my opinion. Interesting awakening is good. He has synergies and a clear design focus, but definitely a wait and see in my opinion.